Great.
Hi, Kara.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Coffee and Cards. We took a week off last week. It was quite a busy one with family fun, and all the good things. And it feels really good to be hopping back on here to connect in with all of you. Kara and I have been, and many of you, experiencing some interesting energetics over the last couple weeks, and we wanted to hop on and connect in with all of you in relation to these feelings that are coming up. And Kara and I were just talking briefly before popping on here in relation to the anxiety and unsettled energy that so many of us have been feeling, this discomfort, this rumbling in the stomachs, the solar plexus, that have created just discomfort. And I keep coming back to that word of unsettled coherence. I
Yeah,
think it's fair to say that. Hey, Kara?
right. I think so too. And I don't know if you noticed, but like are have been paying attention, but it also seems like there's so much of that same energy being mirrored like actually with the earth, like the earthquakes and the like weird weather things and yeah, so I mean like it's always fascinating to see that mirror between like what we experience in our bodies and then what is happening in the external too.
I actually, speaking to that, because we had a night where, remember, you had huge anxiousness come up, and you're like, I feel this,
This
like a
earthquake.
earthquake. Yeah, the earthquake energy. And I remember after you said, and you're like, holy shit, this just went down.
In Alaska, there
So
was one like at the same time or something. So I found that really peculiar. Like, why would, like, the only reason I know what an earthquake feels like is because in Mexico, there's earthquakes. And so every winter we have an earthquake, and there's a certain vibration that starts within. But I'm in Montreal. I'm like, this is really weird. And then finding out that later. So, anyways, that's a whole other story. But like, um, I think there's been more than just that one, though. There's been a lot of different earthquakes. But
there's been a
so
lot.
it's unsettledness, right? So this is the thing. I think when this is happening, um, like literally on the planet, and whether you're in close proximity or not, there's a certain resonance that's gonna like vibrate out that we're gonna feel, which is going to be that unsettled feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's powerful that you brought up that reflection of the Earth's coherence, because we are so deeply connected to that. And it would be interesting, to almost look at those periods of time where so many um, individuals who are more connected, right, with and in tune, maybe we have that discernment of listening to the body, because so many intuitives are feeling the exact same way. And it would be interesting to tune into, is it at the same timing of these
Mm-hmm.
energetics within the planet? It's
Mm-hmm.
a really good reference point.
And then to be able to, I think that whenever we learn things like that too, like for me, I know if I'm reading something that somebody like that another intuitive has shared and they're talking about like a theme or a certain coherence or resonance that's happening, and if I hear that and if I've been experiencing it's like, oh, okay, thank goodness, like like
Mhm.
not in the fact that like, oh, I'm glad we're all feeling it, but then it does bring a sense of community and connection in, so it's like we're not alone. So I think that's what basically why we want to talk about all of this today, because it's like we always know this though, right? Like if we're feeling it, there's a really good chance that a lot of people are feeling it. The more aware you are in your day-to-day life, the more you're going to feel it.
And
Yeah.
it assists in bringing clarity to that channel.
Yeah.
And also recognizing the macro piece of it, instead of just, oh my God, what's going on with my stomach? Or why am
Right.
I feeling so out of body? Out of body as well. I think I spoke to you about that. And I know many have been experiencing the same. It's been this challenging time, really grounding in to the
Mm-hmm.
body.
Yeah.
And I think I said too, is like witnessing, how much of my life I lived like that. And it's
Right.
like, I don't know how I lived so disconnected to my body for so many years. Right.
Right.
So now we have that awareness of like when we're not fully grounded in or anchored in. And that unsettling energy definitely amplified that.
Right.
Um,
So do you think
yeah.
that you experienced that because that's an old pattern and it's coming up again? Because this is one thing I wanted to talk about that I forgot to mention was like how it feels like a lot of things that we've like, experienced in the past, like everything's kind of getting loud again or returning again. And it's like we're seeing it from this different lens. So, like if you were feeling that, but then you can identify that, like, you know, you have the awareness now. Whereas, if you lived most of your life with that, then you wouldn't have had the same awareness. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that that's key, how you mentioned about having a new awareness point to it. So it's the sensations there, the feelings there, but there's a different reaction this
Mm-hmm.
time to what's coming up and what's surfacing in the body. And part of the inner work that I did in reflection to that this week was connecting with that part of myself that used to feel that way all the time, where it was like, okay, what are you communicating? Why are you re-triggering my cells to communicate this again? And I feel most recently I was able to put together in a little more clarity what that cycling pattern was. Um, so would you say that you're feeling also we're kind of being gravitated back to, those pieces or fragments of our inner child or our teenage self or wherever we're harboring what's
100%. Yeah.
elevating the body?
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. I guess that's the tie-in, right? Like, these old cycles that come back in that obviously haven't been fully integrated yet, or we haven't learned the lesson completely. We might be in a different state of awareness and be able to see it from a different point of view, but it still needs a deeper connection. And I think that that's the thing. We were just talking about this with like this inner child work, and it's like, who's the adult in the room, basically, when we're having these feelings come up. And, you know, and like you said, like, you in the past, you would have, how did you live like that? It's like, well, there wasn't like an adult in the room there, basically, like you were just perpetuating this like inner thing. And for me, the same, like what I
Right.
noted, the same old patterns coming up and being like, okay, like how have I done this for so long? It's like, okay, well, because it was like this other aspect of me that wasn't like the adult version of me, that was just like kind of being pulled along with it, rather than being like, wait a second, this actually doesn't work, you know? And how can we support ourselves so that we don't need to keep creating this chaos essentially to get our own attention, really, is what it feels like.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that you said, it didn't work, because that's almost how it feels when we talk about unsettled energy. It's like you're spiraling, but the awareness is
Yeah.
there. And it's like, well, how do I consciously get myself to move out of that coherence or out of that frequency with honoring the feelings that need to come up through the processing, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So what did you do? How did you do that? Like what was there anything that you did in particular that felt helpful?
a lot of Akasha work. I think I
Okay.
said to you
Yeah.
even last night, I feel like I didn't even get rest the whole night. That energy field just has felt really wide open for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and witnessing those patterns in the field where it's like, okay, so I'm seeing where it's coming from in my past relations, where I brought that belief in through my ancestral patterning, where in the Akashas it's showing me the karmic correlation, and then bringing that into the collective field. So I always try to bridge it like the four body system to the coherences of that element of healing,
Mm-hmm.
so that it can really help make those waves. And so I stopped just coming from the micro of it and bring that into the macro for that expansion.
Right.
Um, and I noted there were a few coherences in that I had to keep going back to. So it
Right.
was like kind of like you said, so I'd bring an awareness to it, but then the mental mind or the monkey mind, it was like, oh no, we're not done yet. And almost like pulling me back into the story, where it was like I think we talked about that feeling of embarrassment. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I had to defend. I felt like all the egoic mind illusions, where it was like, okay, like let's sit with this uncomfortable energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would feel like it would come to peace and then pull me right back in again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Did you experience similar with different waves and patterns that came in?
Yeah, 100%. So it was like seeing a pattern that's
Right.
actually a pretty significant pattern that I can also trace to so many different aspects of my life, and being like, holy, I didn't like, feeling like almost like, whoa, I didn't know that was there, or I didn't know how to name it, or like I knew the feeling or the texture of it, but I didn't know what it was. And
Right.
then seeing that, and then, yes, embarrassment. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and shame of like, how have I not seen this? How have I bypassed this, you know? And kind of like almost ridiculing myself, which I did. I stopped that, but it was like, come on, Kara, like we have to get it together, you know, like this has to end basically. So it was like also making a very conscious decision of like, I'm completing that past pattern. Like that's it. And just focusing on being so aware every day of where I could almost slide into that awareness and being
Mhm.
like, no, like, you know, so it's, I feel like my approach is probably similar to yours. I don't like, maybe I'm in the Akasha, but that's not my intention ever. I feel like that's definitely your realm. My realm feels more in like here, you know. Um, it would probably be really beneficial for me to have an Akasha session and go in and, you know, actually deal with all the karmic things too. But
I feel that's the reality of the presidency. It's like,
yeah,
oh, shit, right? We're seeing the karmic patterns and cycles,
yeah,
and they're amplifying.
yeah, exactly. So how do you feel now with everything? Do you feel like it's still there, or do you feel like you're like coming back into like more groundedness?
Yeah, I feel like I'm anchoring back in. Like that energy definitely feels different from the last few weeks. But at the same time, there's still it's the monkey mind. And we've talked to this so many times where it's like I can literally witness the mind try to pull out. And then we know when your mind pulls out, you're disconnecting from the body, you're disconnecting from your field, you're disconnecting from your heart. So we're not receiving truth because the mind is creating its own delusion or illusion. That was another thing I'd love to touch into if we're in alignment with it today, like living that element of delusion.
Right. Yeah, let's do it.
Because let's right go into it because it's all interconnected, right?
Hmm.
And many of us do live in accordance with energy of delusion, thinking that it's true when it's in essence, it's not in alignment with the soul's connection or
Right.
the soul's truth. And we can make up good stories on how we're in, alignment with our
Yes,
past when we're not actually.
I know. That was actually brought to my attention this week by my teacher. She was like, you know, sometimes you think you're in integrity and you're not. And I was like, whoa, okay. You know, like,
Isn't
and
that
I
a
think,
nice fire under your ass?
what's that?
Isn't that a nice fire under your ass?
I know. It's like, okay. Um, and I mean, like, again, humanness, like, of course, like, we're not aiming for perfection here. We're aiming for awareness and, you know, willingness to like actually like clear these things and like, you know, and do our best to come into integrity. But I feel like this is interesting because we're in this era right now of disclosure, right? So it's like all of
Right.
these things are being disclosed right now on a government level, like on health, like all these different platforms, like things are coming to the light. So why would we think we're going to be exempt from that? You know, if there are inversions, which is what I call them, which is like the upside down reality essentially. If that exists out there, of course we have it because we've bought into this like conditioning, um, you know, the collective mind. We've bought into those thought patterns, which when you talked about like the monkey mind, it's like that's all fear, that's all scarcity. It's like there's not enough. Like it wants to keep us stuck so that we don't remember that we have the power to transcend these things, you know? So if this is all happening out there, of course it's going to be happening inside. And all of the places that we've bought into this illusion, they're coming up right now. But it does take courage, I feel like, and um, humility
Yeah.
to be
And
like,
truth, right?
yeah, but I feel like for me, I know what it, and this might be different for you, but for me, humility. It's like to admit that I didn't have it right, to admit that I bought into a philosophy that actually wasn't incoherence for me, to admit, you know, all of these things. It's like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, anyway, I think that it's important to talk about.
I
Yeah,
agree. It's the self-awareness. I thought you were going to keep going there. I feel like there's something to come.
no,
Um, It's the self-awareness and self-acceptance too, right? It's like you said, that humility, and then even being humble with yourself. It's like, just honor you're human in this moment. Honor,
Hmm.
maybe the choices that were made, that internal compass wasn't listened to. And it's okay to admit that, you followed maybe something that wasn't an integrity or truth, right? And
Hmm.
we talk about that energy of embarrassment. It almost creates that, like, I know for me, when I tuned into
100%.
that, right? It's like, yeah, embarrassment isn't just like, oh, I'm going up to read like a speech in front of my class. It's like on the bigger scale, where we've truly made choices, especially in that bypassing to the intuition. And of
But I
course,
think that's
every
shame, B. I think that's shame. Like,
I got
which
it,
is this
and probably embarrassment
thing.
too.
Well, yeah, because it's the same frequency as embarrassment, but it's a
Right.
bit deeper, because it's like
Right.
having to admit something, and like, how are people going to react to that? Or what are people going to think about me in that
Right.
situation? Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's where the judgments come in. It's like the judgment of self and then the judgment of others. So yeah, we can see where in that coherence itself, it creates that spiraling
Hmm.
energy.
Yeah.
Um, it's a powerful one. And I think that that's the biggest piece. If we all really looked at ourselves and our choices, and it's like, in myself and truth, like, is this from truth
Hmm.
and who I am at my core? And
Hmm.
that coherence in its own is so exposing for every single one of us,
Hmm.
because there will be witness to, like, oh, maybe the life that I'm living is not what I
Right.
think it is, or I thought it was. Hmm.
Right. And how willing are we going to, how far are we going to take that? We'll call it a lie, but really it's just like,
Yeah.
how far are we going to take that to avoid shame and embarrassment and admitting that we didn't make the right decision, or can we just be like, yep, and that wasn't right for me, and I'm going to do something different now, and taking charge rather than perpetuating it
Yeah.
and staying in something long just because. Like, how many times have we both done that? Stayed in something that wasn't serving our alignment,
Yeah.
and not listening to ourselves. And we were talking about that too, right? Like that self betrayal piece, that people pleasing piece. Like, I feel like that's all interrelated so much.
It is, and it shows up in so many aspects of our life. I've really been looking recently too, where it's like we've talked so much about discernment. And I know that this is coming up for so many people, and things can look very convincing. Social media platforms can look very convincing. People's lives can look very convincing. But the thing is, that's not necessarily the truth. And the truth is where we expose within ourselves whether something's in alignment or not. Deep in our core, we know where those actions are coming from, right? And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's where I know for both of us, we've really been doing a lot of our inner work. And for so many, it's exposing.
Yeah.
It's
It
it's,
is
it's like the desert energy. It's like it just
like raw. And
but
it's
the
like,
naked, you're in it.
and
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's where, that adult comes into the conversation where it's like, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
and so what? So let's do it differently this time, rather than feeling like we're a fuck up or, any of that. It's like, okay, and so what? Like, we're human. Can we be easy on ourselves and also take action in a new way,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that
And
for me, sorry, I just have one quick thing to say that for me, it's like that avoidance of like wanting to avoid that embarrassment or that shame, has kept me in certain places because I wanted to be right. I didn't want to be wrong rather than being like, I was wrong and I'm going to do something different this time,
yeah, the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I was going to speak to that, coming back into that innocence, because, a lot of our collective programming has taught us to, in essence, like, be a mask or be a facade instead of being in truth. So
Right.
when we really look into those patterns of our upbringings and how our collective culture has, in essence, programmed us, I mean, that's another big one to look at. That's not always
Hmm.
comfortable, but I find that there's like an innocence in that as well, because it's like, okay, so this is what I know. In my heart, I know that's not true. So now it's like, okay, how do I realign letting the heart navigate the path as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
the conditioning that brought me into living these delusions or these illusions. And it can kind of be exciting because it's like a self-discovery almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you tune in, you're almost with a clear canvas, and it's like, okay, everything's white now in my world. So how do I want to recreate? And that's where I've really been trying to focus recently. It's like healing doesn't have to be hard, it doesn't have to be challenging, it doesn't have to be any of those things. We can make it those things if we want. Or we can look at it like a beautiful blank canvas and like, what am I going to paint today? How am I going to create? What am I going to rewrite? How am I going to restructure? And that really helps to shift your A frequency,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that you're in more of a yeah, higher frequency as opposed to like in those more dense feelings and emotions.
Yeah, I
And then
think
you're
that's
gonna
good.
have a harder time, right? Shifting out of it.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And so this is actually a perfect like segue into this because I think we should talk about what we've done. I mean, I know you touched on it, like what you've done this week to help move yourself through, but I think it'd be really good to like give a couple of like tangible examples of like resources or something that has helped us, essentially ground in that chaotic energy, take responsibility, and then also be willing to rewrite, recreate, like step into the new.
Right.
Hmm.
So, like, you mean the practices that we initiate?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like I think that, you know, I just think that would be really beautiful to at least like share what our practices have been because um maybe somebody else will benefit, you know?
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
love that. You want to go first, or do you want me to?
I'm happy to because one thing that was introduced to me in the past couple of weeks. So, I mean, I've always like known on some level that I'm creating my reality, right? Like we hear that all the time. But then when you actually understand that you're creating your own reality by how you feel inside, like that's a whole other level of admitting, and like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like if I'm not happy with how my life is rolling right now or kind of the cards I'm being dealt, then like like it's on me. Like I'm not going to blame anybody else. Like life's happening through me and I'm creating it. So Heather shared this video and it was like it was an audio and I'd heard of this guy before, Neville Goddard, but I had never really paid much attention. But I started listening to his speeches on how you create your reality based on your frequency and your resonance. And so I'm gonna put it down below in the comments because I feel like it was just so powerful to be like, oh yeah, like it was like this remembrance. It was almost like I needed that tap on the shoulder, be like, oh yeah, like snap out of it. You're not lost in a spiral. There's another way. If you're not happy with what you're seeing in front of you right now, then create something different. And here's a beautiful way you could do it. And his whole philosophy is like, so he was like, think about like your dream life. Like think about what that would be. So I wrote down some things of like, different things that are important for me. And then he's like, okay, now set the list aside, but feel what it would feel like if all of those things were right now. And so then I was like, okay. So I started feeling, I'm like, oh, wow. Like I felt so excited. I felt joy. I felt like my heart was like, it was like this expansive thing. And then so he was like, so hold that
Mhm.
frequency. Because like, if that's where you want to go, then be it now so that you're going to see the reflections of that. And so that basically what you're seeking is going to be able to find that signal to find you too, as opposed to, I'm worried, what am I doing with my life? Where am I going to go next? The monkey mind, like, I mean, we're in the same position, like, where are we going to live? What are we going to do? Like, how is work going to go? Like, all of these things. And it's like, okay, like, can you set that aside for like 15, 10 minutes a day and focus on this dream and how that feels. And just like every time you then start to feel like the mind go into a different direction that feels like constriction, then come back into that and like bring in that
Mhm.
feeling. So anyway, for me, that has been really good. And I've noticed like because I'm such a feeler in my body and I can tell when things feel open and when they don't, every time I like reread, those little things that I wrote down, my whole body goes, oh, okay. Like it just relaxes. And I think that
Mhm.
when our body is relaxed, when our nervous system is relaxed, we're more open to synchronicity. we're more open to look at problem solving and different like alternate like pathways rather than being constricted and being like it has to look a certain way or it's not going to work, you know? So it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm open to possibilities. Like you said, I have a blank canvas. What am I going to create today? Could be anything, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm going to share that because um to me over the past couple of weeks, and I've shared it with a few people that I've been working with, and it's like, oh, like just one of those things that makes your shoulders drop and go, okay, all is well.
I could feel the expansion, like as you were speaking to it.
Right. Because I started to feel it. I'm like, I remember that it's like all of a sudden I can feel like, okay, like anything is possible. We can do anything we want to do. That is the truth. We can create anything that we want to do. That is the truth. You know, the only thing that limits us is our thoughts. That's it.
Mind.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I don't want to. There's a lot of people in the world right now that don't have the same luxury as me. And I want to acknowledge that because I have a very privileged luxury opportunity right now in my life. I'm not in the same position as a lot of people. So I don't want to discredit any of that. But for me, in the situation I've been going through and feeling, this was a really helpful exercise.
It's huge. And literally,
Mm-hmm.
like, even you speaking to it with that expansion, you just feel the rootedness, like the anchoring,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is in par right now with what we need to focus on. Because when we're like this in our energy, as we're talking about that unsettled coherence, like it is going to keep magnetizing and attracting chaotic energy, period. It just
Mm-hmm.
does. We know that, right? So that's what I mean when I, earlier on the call, where I'm like, how the heck did I live like that for so many of
Mm-hmm.
my years, right? Um, yeah, it helps root you, it helps anchor
Mm-hmm.
you. And then
Mm-hmm.
creating from that space, in my opinion, it like streamlines the
Mm-hmm.
coherence to work with you as opposed to like swimming upstream.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So that's what I
Um,
did. So do you have anything that's like kind of tangible? I mean, I know you already talked about the Akasha and like all of this, but
I've been really trying to just get present with my mind.
mm-hmm.
And it's like when I think that's it, it's learning to redirect, not bypassing though. Like there's this fine-tuned line because it's like you do need to still allow whatever emotion needs to come through without being like, oh no, it's all good and I'm going to all is love and light and blah, 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 whatever it is. I think I used this quote one of the last times. It was from the book with Ferd, who we're going to be interviewing in September.
Mm-hmm.
And the frequency was, the universe doesn't speak to your affirmations, it speaks to your frequency. So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
can tell myself a million times over that all is good and it's peachy, where it's like, no, that's the farthest thing from true. And my peaches feel mashed in the sand, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's that space of awareness where I can see my mind drift off or like wanting to replay this story. And that's where I'm kind of using this canvas. So it's like, okay, I'm seeing that this thought process is keeping me, for example, in my ego. It's not fair, it's not right, feeling the need to defend, whatever those things are, where it's like, okay, wait, that's not my truth because my heart's not aligning with the head. So
Mm-hmm.
then it's coming back to, and maybe that's it. It's like applying the canvas to the heart. And then so it's like, well, how do I want to thread this in me? And then so if I go back out, then I rethread back in. And that's kind of where I've been focusing. So I'm allowing the emotion to process, but I'm finding it's almost like I'm catching myself quicker than allowing it to just continue to, in essence, like create a tornado,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
100%. It's awareness. And it's like being willing
yeah,
to be, I think too, it's like that's the humility and the humbleness of like being willing to like look at the thoughts and you're right, like not bypassing. We're not like love and lighting this away because that's not actually how you get to any resolution. You can't bypass it. You have to look at the shitty thoughts and you have to take responsibility for them and even trace them back to where did it start and go back to that part, which I think is where the Akashic is so beautiful because it's like going back to that part and like flipping the script so you don't have to have that as like a operating system.
exactly. And
Yeah,
that's the biggest piece. So I mean, I'm not like physically drawing the canvas, but I'm drawing it in my
of
internal, right? And
course.
I'm scripting and rewriting and really trying to be more mindful with my speech. So it's like, where am I putting my thoughts? And it's okay to speak to the things, but to not get drowned in it, you know?
Hmm.
Because it's easy to do that. It's easy to do that with our own internal work, especially if the ego is still so entangled in a storyline. And I think that's been the biggest piece I've really witnessed over the last 3 weeks, where it's like there's more grace
Mm.
to the energy that's being processed. I do feel more in my heart. I feel more in understanding. I feel um, grateful. Like there's a different coherence to that now, where it's like looking at certain things, it's a different perspective lens.
Right.
So that in its own is like keeping me more centered,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say that that's been a big application for me. And same like for me in meditation, I know a lot of my conscious thoughts come through when I walk or when I bathe. Like
Hmm.
there's certain coherences to that. And I definitely noted the last week I was walking a lot more because I was really trying to help work through the mind element.
Yeah.
And
Moving it. I think that's important because like
you too
energy,
with the
any
movement.
energy needs to move. Oh yeah, I've been moving so much. It's
Yeah.
the only way, and I think that that's an important, like in a really easy way to get grounded in the body, you know? Because sometimes when we feel like life is overwhelming, we retract, and we like hide away. And I think that these are the times to meet everything head on and just like let's just finish it once and for all. Let's like complete these patterns, like in the outside world and in our world. Like let's, like step into this new earth that we are all birthing through us. Like it's time now.
Expose it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's all really good.
Beautiful alignments. And I know that this video will, find a lot of people
I
because
think
we
so
are
too.
we're all processing right now, and this is it. We can be of that support to each other. Yeah,
I love it.
me
I think
too.
that's good. Do you feel like that's good?
Oh yeah, I mean, you and I,
Yeah.
we know, and just keep
Yeah.
going to more things, but I feel like this is a good place
Yeah.
to exit, and
Hmm.
maybe, putting that out there. If this connected for any of you, like sharing your experiences with it or what
Of
you're doing, what
course.
you're buying, we would love to hear.
Hmm. Of course. And if you're listening to this and you're not, part of our Blue Lotus Collective, gosh, do we ever have so many good resources in there for inner alignment? Like, um, you know, so if you are listening to this and you're interested, we have a little, 20% off welcome code right now. Reach out to us. Happy to share it. Really, it's like, the more people that can come in to this frequency hub and like, create some mass, to like really come into alignment would be really good.
Blatant good,
Yes,
period.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
Britt.
as we've been processing with the meditations, like because we
Yeah,
do align each week with the energies and coherences, that in its own, like being able to show up on those Tuesday nights and
yeah,
really get present with that internal compass. And we'll talk about
yeah,
that maybe next time.
yeah,
But it is just such an ally and source to really learn again your own discernment and your inner, to
yeah,
really ultimately learn to trust yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so if anybody is interested in learning more, let us know. And otherwise, we'll connect in next week for more something. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? I mean, we'll see.
We'll see. We're only on Wednesday. I don't even know
Yeah,
what day I feel like it is, right?
I
Yeah.
know. Okay, love you,
Um,
B. Talk to you soon.
good sister. See you.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone. I'm gonna find